Happy Devils Wednesday. This is the State of the Fan Address presented by pucksandpitchforks.com. I'm your host, Sam Wu, here with Nick Villano, the editor-in-chief of that fine publication, as we're streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, X Live, Twitch, and now on Instagram Live on the Let's Go Devils Network, coming to you live from the Primetime Radio Studios, both North and South Jersey bunkers. Talking a little bit more Devils hockey. Sonny speaks. He's speaking to everybody. Nick. That's the title of the podcast.
Yeah, he really talked to everybody, except for us. I didn't ask. It's the power of the ask. I didn't use the power of the ask, Sam. We missed our chance. I wonder if he's busy.
Can we ask now?
Can we text? Hey, Pete. Pete! Can you hear me, Pete? I'd like Sonny on the podcast. Is he busy? Is he having dinner? Have a late dinner? Because he's hungry from all the answers he's been given? I got to give it to him, though. He answered all the questions pretty thoughtfully. There's a lot to ask, right? And I first of all, I want to take a victory lap. Can I take a victory lap real quick?
Go right ahead.
I had a lot of people downright question my intelligence for saying we should go with 3 goalies. Question me as a writer. Question me as a hockey analytic or analysis representative. I had a lot of people in my mentions react to me directly. People who I had once respected say essentially that there's no way that 3 goalies works. None. Not a zilch, zero chance. And yet, smart guy GM comes in. Guess what's one of the first moves he makes, Sam? He ships out that $6 million monstrosity. And I'm talking about the contract. I like Jacob Markstrom as a person, and I thought he was big in the playoffs. But he sends out that $6 million monstrosity, and he turns it into $1.8 million Jake Allen, who I want to get to him in a minute, because he talked about it. I don't know if you saw it. Jake Allen talked about the three-headed monster goalie situation, what he thinks of it. Nico Daws, there's no one who's a bigger fan of Nico Daws than me. You know it. I know. I've been on top of. I said, bring Nico Daws up.
Very true.
Bring Nico Daws up. Put him in the NHL. Make him be the third string. He'll learn a thing or two. It'll be great. And then David Riddick, who had good underlyings. He has the underlyings of a backup, right? He's like a top 40 guy, and the Devils could be fine with that, right? If you're just doing your job beyond this defense. A lot of people said, you're an idiot, essentially. You're wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. And Sonny Mehta comes in, smart guy GM. First thing he does, 3-headed monster in net. Now, I do think at some point you're going to get just 2 goalies, right? And I think they want it to be Dawes and Allen, but they think they're open to it being Allen and Riddick. And I do think someone will play 45 games this year. I think that. I think there's, Schill and Keefe likes to ride a hot streak. But I also think, do you know what I really think? I think Sonny Mehta is listening to Sheldon Keefe. And I think Sheldon Keefe, my only worry is I think maybe there's a couple of things I think you're overcorrecting to Tom Fitzgerald mistakes. You don't want to do that. Sometimes like we're working on the margins here, and you don't want to go to extremes. I think we had these points. You had the point that you think the ownership's coming down on and it's a trickle down effect. I think that Fitzgerald just put all the pressure on Keefe and tried to be the GM/coach. I think Keefe was so frustrated by what was required of him, especially when it came to Markstrom. I think Fitzgerald really was trying to save his job and saying you got to ride Markstrom until he's dead. Because coming out of the Olympics, Markstrom wasn't bad until like the wheels fell off. And if you remember, like Jake Allen didn't play for like a month and a half or something, like something crazy, because he didn't play going into the break. Then he didn't play coming out of the break for like 7 or 8 games or something crazy. And when he finally did get in, he had played in a month and a half. He got shelled. So I think you do want to try to avoid those scenarios, but and it's funny. Like this is the first time the Devils don't have the most back-to-backs. I think they have 8 or 8, somewhere between 8 and 10. I can't remember the exact number, but I've been clear that if you have one guy play 10 games and the other guy split the other 74 now, you got to remember there's also 2 more games in the schedule, Sam. Like, we haven't talked about that a lot. There's 84 games this year. So 74 in a split, not bad. Even if you give the other guy, let's say you give the other guy 20. So you got 64 games. A traditional backup usually only plays what? 30 games? 35 games? Something like that? Let's say it's 30. So now that's 54 games. What does that leave you? I think that's too little. So you'd have to probably cut it down to like you'd want 15, 25, and then the other guy to play 44. I think that's a fair breakdown. And when it's a guy like David Riddick, who he's not really the futures guy, give him 15 games. I don't think it's a bad thing. If you spread them out correctly, I don't think it's a bad thing. And I've said that. I even went one step further to be like, you don't have to play the other guy. Like, make him be your backup in back-to-backs. Make him be the, dress for a couple games and service backup when Markstrom just needs a night to just not even get dressed. Right? He just needs the night off. And I thought that was a fight. And then if there's an injury that happens, then you have the guy who's already used to playing with the team. He's not riding the bus in the AHL. He gets to go on the nice planes, and the team is used to him because of practice, and like he has that familiarity with everything. This 3-goalie thing always made sense to me. I'm going to write about it tonight. I'm going to write about it in the context of what Jacob Allen said. So Jake Allen spoke to Daily Faceoff today, and they asked about the 3-goalie thing. It was an interesting context. They didn't ask the question directly, like, what do you think of your situation? They asked them, what do you think of this new thing, this new wave hitting the NHL? When in reality, it's his situation. And he mentioned that the Montreal Canadiens kept Caden Primo up, like, forever. And I remember this. I remember that we thought we were getting Jake Allen because Caden Primo never got sent down. I can't remember if he was waivers eligible or not. But I just remember they didn't send down Caden Primo. And he said on this podcast, I thought they were going to send Caden Primo down. We just never really understood why it didn't happen. And they asked him, he said straight up, I didn't like it. But he kind of said, I don't want to say he pulled it back, but he went on to say, like, to make this work, there has to be clear lines of communication. You have to know exactly what everybody's role is. And I think that's fine. There's no other position where guys need that, right? Like, if Jack Hughes is playing first line one night and the second line the next night, like, if he's not starting the next night, I don't think anybody cares. Dawson Mercer has to move around the line a bit. It is what it is. Timo Meyer's moved around. I think sometimes you have to, like, play it by ear in hockey, right? You have to ride the hot hand a little bit. So, I thought that was interesting. What did you think about the 3? How Sonny Mehta talked about the 3 goalies thing?
I didn't listen to the interview, to be honest, but I have my opinion on the 3-goalie thing.
You could have lied, Sam. I would have believed you.
Yeah, but I don't do that here on the podcast. So, number one, I was always a big, and still am a big fan of Jake Allen. Look, the potential here could be actually pretty good. if everybody lives up to their potential. So Jake Allen can be outstanding at times. And I thought he played pretty well last season, but why he didn't get the playing time, I don't know. Nico Dawes has shown signs of he like an above average goaltender. Like there were times where he was stopping the puck when he was in some of these emergency call ups in the past. I think he's past that hip surgery that he had. I think he's well past that. He's mature. He is entering I won't say it was prime of his career, but he's entering in that phase where he has enough experience. It's put up or shut up, and but at the same time, is he an above 500 goaltender? And the other guy comes in as an emergency basis where you're not throwing a young goaltender in that position and allowing the other younger goaltenders in the AHL to develop. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing we haven't spoken about at all, and nobody's talked about it. Jacob Malik is a year older. And Malik was the reason why the Utica Comets made a run towards the playoffs at the end of the year. He was really good at the end of the year. Do I think he's in NHL ready? I don't. But I thought he was really good. And again, I don't want to rush him. I don't want to be in a situation. But again, if you get an injury, then you still have two. You're fine. If you get a second injury, I think I forgot who the other goalie that they signed was, but I think he's a guy who they could call up if they really needed to. But Malik's a guy. If Malik plays well, call him up. And I'm pulling up Reddick's game log. Reddick had a rough go at it to end the season. I'm trying to think. So in 2 games where he didn't start, he allowed a goal. So it was like these games were over. Sorokin had a bad night kind of thing, and he allowed in Pittsburgh he had 1 goal on 3 shots. In Montreal he had 1 goal on 4 shots. That's a terrible save percentage, but you look a little bit before that. Again, he definitely was not very consistent. But he had nights like against Nashville, he stopped 26 of 27 shots. Against Carolina, he stopped 19 of 21. Against Calgary, I don't even want to mention that one because that one's whatever. But against Columbus, he stopped 31 of 34. He shut out the Rangers. Against the Devils, he stopped 31 of 32. That was in December. Against Buffalo, he stopped 30 of 32. Against Anaheim, he stopped 31 of 33. So he shut out Seattle. He stopped 22 of 24 against Dallas. He stopped 28 of 30 against Utah. I'm looking at his situation. He clearly fell off down the stretch. How many games did he play last year? He played 30 games last year. If you only take those first 15, he's a great goalie. Now, the problem is that if he's having a great season, you're not going to play him 15 games. So it's kind of like what is it? Bird in the hand kind of thing. Is that the right saying? I think I'm using the wrong saying. But it's you have this asset that can be great if you only play him 15 games. But if he plays great in 15 games, you're going to want to play him in 30. All right. So it's it's a catch-22, right? Is that one? I think that's what it is. I think it's great on paper, but in execution, you have to be super disciplined, and I don't know if they're going to be that with this. Not having a ton of experience doing it like this. So I will say this. I'm glad they're doing it. I'm glad they're giving Dawes the shot. I think Allen's the starter. A lot of people are saying that Allen's the starter. Right? But Allen's good for 40 games. Can I tell you what does concern me about the current situation, Sam?
What's that?
Who do you go to in the playoffs? Because you're not gonna switch goalies in the playoffs, are you?
It can be effective. It was effective for Carolina in the end there.
That's true. That's true. Who did that against the Devils? Was it Boston that one year? They kept switching their goalie? Or no, did the Devils do it against Boston with Berdor and Terreri?
I think it was Brodeur and Terreri. That's how I remembered it.
Right. And that kind of like turned the series around. Because they just got a different look, but then they went back to Brodeur. Brodeur, I think that was in 90. Was that 95? I don't remember. I'm doing a lot of history stuff. It's all blending together. But yeah, so it could work. It could work. And Nico Dawes has had big moments. We forget he was the guy in net for the Stadium Series. I think he stopped, what, like 36 shots or something in that game?
Wow. Was he really?
Yeah. He was the guy in net for the Stadium Series.
That was such a... It feels like yesterday, but... Oh, wow. And John Marino was scoring goals as well in that game.
Yeah. Bastion scored a goal that night. That was a fun night, but Nico Dawes was the guy in net, and he made some great saves. And you know, he had to do them early when the it wasn't like the Devils already had 6 goals on the board. So I have faith in Nico Dawes. I was thinking about this a lot, Sam, because I was very critical of Sheldon Keefe. I haven't seen them ask about Sheldon Keefe. He was asked a ton of questions, and Christy Flannery's profile on him has not come out yet, so we'll see if she has, but I haven't seen one question about Sheldon Keefe in that decision. I feel like that was the biggest, most controversial decision he made. So I'll have to go back. I didn't watch all of James's interview with him, so I'll have to go to see what if Nichols asked about Sheldon Keefe. But I have to wonder, because I was very critical of Keefe, thought he lost the room. I think about it a lot, and I think about the guys that were lost, and I think about how they played when they got back. I do wonder if maybe Fitzgerald lost the room.
Oh, I would completely agree. I think Sheldon Keefe was kind of rebelling during that time period.
Why were the Devils so good in October? And so good in March, and so good in April. They were still pretty good in April. Why were they so good on the bookends and so bad? Like November, they were still pretty good, but December, January, and February, they were dreadful. And the simple answer is Jack Hughes was hurt, right? But it looked bad. Jack Hughes has been hurt in the past, and they've just been overmatched. But they're fighting.
You're forgetting one thing here. You had the whole Quinn saga looming, and that had a lot of effect on that locker room.
I don't disagree. I mean, listen. I don't know how else to say this, but like, Tom Fitzgerald put warfare on this team last year. What he said about Dougie Hamilton to the media, to Pierre LeBrun, saying that, and then putting the pressure on Simone Nemeth, saying Simone Nemeth has been our best defenseman. Like, why are you putting that guy in that position? What he said about or the pressure you put on Markstrom with that contract extension, which again, like, Markstrom signed it. You got to do better, but totally unnecessary situation. And what else he did? Well, the Quinn thing was just a mess. He bungled it, and he didn't address the team. It sounds like after it, like he just kind of let everybody like fend for themselves and go to Christmas. And then there was when it seemed like when Hamilton got benched, I think it was almost like the pot boiling over, and something clicked in and was like, I don't care. I think Hamilton is a eclectic guy. We'll say that. And when you have guys who are that supremely talented, and say what you want about Hamilton, he's not the best defenseman in the league, but he's supremely talented. When you have them where they also have that kind of personality, like I call it like the Kurt Cobain thing. Like they're we'll just call them quirky. You do have to hit the right notes with them. And when they rebel, usually greatness comes out of them, but you don't need them to rebel because there's also like a downside with that. I think if you just got Hamilton to be like, and Sonny Mehta said it today, and I think this is going to go a long way, that he said, I want offense for my defenseman, and Dougie Hamilton's one of the best at that. And he sounds happy to have Dougie Hamilton here. Now, there are a few things. There's a few things I want to touch on, and I know, we're running out of podcast fast, but I want to talk about the defense because that's been a point of contention this week. I think the Devils' defense is actually good, and here's why. I think Luke Hughes is going to take a step. I think that's just that's clear and obvious that's on the table. Luke Hughes is going to take a major step forward. He doesn't have the contract situation. He doesn't have the Quinn Hughes situation hanging over his head. He doesn't have the there's nothing. He just gets to like hang out with Jessica Alba this offseason. He doesn't have to worry about anything. He's not injured, right? We thought he was going to be injured. Well, no, he did get surgery, right?
Yeah, he did. He definitely did.
But he looks like he's recovered now. Looks like he's fully healthy. He's not wearing a sling. He looks like he's in good shape. He's not going to start the season on injury reserve, barring something crazy. Knock on wood. It looks like Luke Hughes is going to be raring and ready to go. Brett Pesce, I think, is in the same situation. Brett Pesce is he's hanging on to the edge of his prime, but I think he's ready. Like I think he's a really good player to have. I think that's your top line, Pesce and Hughes. And I think that's a good top line. Good. Not great. Good. But I think then you have a great second line if you find the right collaborator with Hamilton, whether that's Dylan, whether that's Siegenthaler. I would try Dylan first. That's it, unless they trade one of them. Because Sonny Mehta said it again. I'm really excited to have Declan Chisholm on this team. Well, who's going to play? Who's he going to play over? So I think one of them is going to get traded. We'll see what happens with who Hamilton's paired with. But I think Hamilton's an elite second line defenseman. Like elite. Like maybe 4 guys better than him who play second line in this league. Maybe. I'm just like, I think Colorado has one. Trying to think of like who's on the second line in Buffalo, but now that they lost Byram, is Power on the second line? I think Power might be on the second line. So like maybe Owen Power is better than him, but maybe not. Maybe Hamilton's better than Power. Either way. And then your third line is Kovacevic and Siegenthaler, which is your shutdown line. I kind of like it. But we'll see. And then and I was looking. It was funny because like Jacob Markstrom faced like it looked bad. I've said this before. I don't think that like some of these analytics account for like extreme chances versus high danger chances. Like it's just taking where the shot is being taken, but it doesn't decipher what's like a wrist shot and what's a breakaway. It doesn't decipher the between the two. So I do think Markstrom was asked to make some extreme saves, but in the aggregate, he didn't face as many high danger shots as most goalies. That's because I think the defense was leaky, but overall had a good system in place. I think Bradshaw put a good system in place. There was just some mistakes that they had to address that they kind of never did. I think if they could, year 2 of the Bradshaw system, I think that this defense is going to be good this year. I think Luke Hughes is going to take a step. I don't think Luke Hughes is ever going to be a top 10 defenseman. I don't think he is. I think he could be a top 15 defenseman. And that's fine. I'm fine with that. That's perfectly fine with the draft capital you're paying him. Like, I think Luke Hughes now is better than Bowen Byram. Yeah. I think he's better than Bowen Byram today. And Bowen Byram just got, 11 or 13 million, something crazy?
Was crazy.
So, paying Luke Hughes $9 million, I'm fine with. I'm fine with it. I don't care. Because, A, I was fine with it then because I thought you were doing it to get Quinn Hughes. The fact that you had the second part of that in your hands, you just blew it. It will never not astound me. I would love to interview Tom Fitzgerald just to be like, come on, man. Could you just tell me what the hell happened? Tell me. You don't have to, throw Bill Guerin under the bus. You don't have to throw Patrick Alvin.
I don't think he knew what happened. I don't think he understands what happened. I mean, Vancouver offered it on a silver platter, sending smoke signals through the media. Jim Rutherford, just pleading with Tom Fitzgerald to take.
Just make the trade. Stop holding on to prospects. I will say this. And it was. I was almost saying this in the context of the Minnesota Wild and Dylan Larkin. You having Matt Boldy might prevent a trade for Dylan Larkin, even if Dallas offers something less than what you offered. Because if you come out of that without Matt Boldy, you look like an idiot. Right? So, you go to Dallas, if Dallas is I'm not giving you Jason Robertson, everybody's like, yeah, that makes sense. If you go to Minnesota, you don't come out of there with Matt Boldy, everybody's going to be everybody outside of Minnesota is going to be well, you kind of messed up. Right? You kind of blew the Dylan Larkin situation. But anyway, overall, I look at this Devils team and I see a wild card team. That's what I see. Or maybe that third Metro team if the Metro stinks. Not stinks, but is less than what we think it's going to be. I do think that I still think their roster is better than Philadelphia. I think Vladar is going to take a step back in net for Philadelphia, and he was a big reason why they made the playoffs last year. Pittsburgh, I think they were doing it with smoke and mirrors last year. They did it on overtime losses, really. That's not convertible from year to year, right? That doesn't come over from year to year. So I think the Devils are ahead of Pittsburgh. I like some of what the Rangers did this year, but I still think they're a step ahead of the Rangers. I think they're a step ahead of the Islanders. I don't love what the Islanders did,
which is basically nothing.
Right, you have this gift in the Matthew Schaefer entry level contract, and you should take full advantage of it, and they didn't. Not sure why. I don't think the Islanders are going to be great, and Columbus I think is going to be the worst team. We'll see, but I don't like a lot of what they did either. So I think the Devils are roster wise the third best team in this division. Coaching wise, I got to see a little bit more from Sheldon Keefe to trust him. So I think they have the third best roster. Coaching, I think, pushes them down to the wild card. And then Sheldon or Sonny Mehta is going to have a hard decision. Do you stick with Sheldon Keefe, who just took you to the playoffs again? But if you get knocked out early, what does that mean? We'll see. But I like what I heard today. I like hearing from Sonny Mehta. I like that he's willing to kind of go put his feet to the fire. I ask guys to ask some harder questions. But, we'll get there.
We'll definitely get there.
I don't have a lot else to say. Besides Sonny, it was a pretty quiet week.
Well, I'll tell you, on social media, you haven't been quiet. I've been marveling at some of your comments at Pitchfork Puck X account.
Yeah, I mean, listen, let's just talk about the Quinn thing real quick. It's bad that he hasn't signed. Say whatever you want. Say whatever you want. It is bad that he hasn't signed. It was bad when Luke Hughes hadn't signed by this time last year. I was sweating bullets. I hated it. And we went through it because we knew once you get to August, everybody goes on vacation. The agents, the GMs, everything. Can I tell you something that makes me curious?
What's that?
So Jason Roberts signed. Or Jason Robertson signed, right? Who did Jason Robertson fire right before he signed?
I have no idea who his agent was.
Pat Brisson, who is Quinn Hughes' agent. If this is going how the Minnesota Wild reporters are saying it's going, I feel like it would have been easier. And I feel like Brisson had a lot of things going on, and Robertson kind of didn't like negotiating tactics, and he switched agents to get the deal done. I wonder if Brisson, this is harder for Brisson than he thought it was going to be. I thought he was like, okay, they're going to give me $18 million a year, and then I'm going to we're going to just call our shots, and I think Bill Guerin is trying to get a win here. And Bill Guerin and Tom Fitzgerald are very similar. I think they're very similar GMs. And I don't think they like to lose. And I think they look at it that way. I don't want to lose. And a 3-year deal where Quinn Hughes gets to walk with his brother to free agency and also gets $19, $20 million a year, where he's making more than Kirill Kaprizov, which was already a crazy contract in many people's eyes, but Kirill Kaprizov signed for 8 years. I don't think Guerin wants to lose. That said, I still think the contract gets done. Every day that goes by, though, I'm less convinced. Every day. How are you not getting this done? And listen, I don't know who represents Cale Makar, because Cale Makar hasn't been gotten done either. But very clearly, Makar is waiting for Hughes to sign, because Hughes has all the leverage. So why would you sign before the guy with the leverage unless Colorado came over the top? And Colorado isn't the type of team to come over the top.
That's actually a very good point, Nick. That's a very good point.
It would be like me, it'd be like you and me negotiating a new podcast contract. And, or if we had a parent company, it's like, or no, a better example is you hear about these shows like Friends, right? When they were trying to negotiate, they were trying to separate the stars and negotiate separately to try to save money. And they were like, no, I'm going to wait and just sign together, and then we'll all make the most money. Right. And you see what that number is, and it's usually lucrative, right? Because usually what happens is everyone then gets Jennifer Aniston's number, right? They get Jennifer Aniston's contract instead of David Schwimmer getting a contract and Matt LeBlanc getting a contract and then Jennifer Aniston getting this crazy contract. Everyone gets no. They don't pull Jennifer Aniston, the star, down. Everybody gets pulled up to her. That's what Cale Makar is looking at this like. I'm the best in the league. I'm not going to be the second highest paid defenseman, so Quinn Hughes is going to sign. And I don't think Quinn Hughes is waiting for Makar. I think Quinn Hughes just wants to figure out what he wants to do. And the more days you let him go unsigned, hanging out with his brothers at Fanatics Fest, hang out with his brothers at the World Cup final, you don't get the World Cup final in Minnesota. You don't get Fanatics Fest in Minnesota. You don't get Tom Brady slapping Logan Paul in the face in Minnesota. You don't get NBA parades in Minnesota. You don't get top flight restaurants. You don't get I think Quinn will sign if they overpay him. I don't think you can overpay him, but if they give him a monstrous contract, for 3 years. I think he'll sign there. I think there's no other way they will. And I don't know if Billy is willing to go there, especially since they got worse. There's under no metric did they get better this offseason. I like Blake Coleman. Blake Coleman is a S-tier third-line player. I think he's a C-tier second-line player. I think he's good. Maybe C is mean, but like a B-tier second-line guy. Like, you didn't add... Blake Coleman would be what? The sixth best forward on the Devils? Fifth or sixth?
Probably sixth.
I look at the Minnesota Wild forward group. And I did this exercise. I think that you could say Kaprizov and Jack Hughes cancel each other out. I think, Heischer is clearly better than Eriksson Ek. I think Boldy is slightly better than Bratt. Myers clearly better than Blake Coleman. And then you just go down the line where it's like, Daniil Yurov is worse than Cody Glass. Whoever's I can't remember the guy, the other winger that they have. Bobby Brink is worse than Anthony Mantha. You go down the line and like their forward group is terrible outside of Boldy and Kaprizov and Eriksson Ek. Like terrible, truly awful. And now they're trying to put it like this is so funny. And then Guerin tries to negotiate in the media. Did you see the latest report? They're saying that Danila Yurov, a 29-year-old with I think career high 24 points, is going to get them a second line center.
That's crazy.
What? What are you talking about? So it's like trying to shape the narrative, and it's just like I could see through it. I would be stressed if I was a Wild fan. And they pretend like they're not stressed, and maybe that's because, it's summer in Minnesota, and it's finally not cold for the first time in 10 months, but I don't know, Sam. It's just, it's giving desperation. Sonny was asked about the Jack Hughes thing, and he just laughed. He said he's not trading Jack Hughes.
Point blank.
Under any circumstances.
Yeah, point blank.
He said he's like I'm not going to talk about the conversations I had with other GMs, but I'm not trading Jack Hughes under any circumstances.
I gotta take that clip and post it tomorrow on X.
Yeah, you have fun with that. He's not going anywhere, but here's the deal, Sam. I think his team is fine. I think it's a playoff team. You got to make the playoffs this year. You just have to. There's no such thing as cellar because there's just too much on the line. If things are going wrong at first, you got to make moves, and you got to add to this roster. You can't be patient with this one. Just because Jack Hughes is on the line. And you can't waste all of Jack Hughes' young prime. Because he's going to ask to go somewhere else. So you got to do better this year. Yeah, but I think they will. I think I like the Mantha signing. I like the Evan Rodriguez trade. I do think Jesper Boquist is going to be starting in the press box. I like Lombardi. I think Lombardi was a really good addition. I think he's a guy you got to keep an eye out for. I like this roster. I think they realistically, you still need that top six forward, which is why if I'm Sonny, I'm calling Detroit now. It's like, listen, I know you don't have a GM. I know you probably want to work this out. Wouldn't you rather just give a GM a fresh slate and just move on from the Dylan Larkin thing? Let me talk to Larkin. Let me do a little convincing. Have Larkin call Jack. Have Larkin call Luke. Have Larkin know that the Hughes brothers were in a suite with Jessica Alba during the World Cup final. Dylan, I saw you were in the stands.
I thought he was on Family Feud.
Was he on Family Feud?
I think he was on Family Feud. Yep.
Oh, he was in the stands with who was with him? Who was with him? There was like 4 Team USA guys in the stands with their shirts off. I know George Kittle was there, but I can't remember the other guys in Team USA who were there. But they all watched the World Cup final together. But yeah, if you get Dylan Larkin here, Cole Caulfield was there. I don't recognize who that guy is.
Was Zegras there?
Zegras was there. Yeah. Phil Forsberg was there. So it's a couple. It's not even the Team USA guys. It's just a bunch of random hockey players. But if you want to live that sweet life, Dylan, come to New Jersey. I would do it. That would be the move. That's the last move, right? I'm just trying to think of like there's like when you look at the other guys that could be traded, like Shane Wright, I don't know if that moves the needle enough for me now. I always wanted Shane Wright, but I'm kind of like souring on the whole situation. Like Andrei Kuznetsov, I think is out there. Yeah, there's just not a lot of guys who are left to be traded. Obviously, Hellebuck, but I don't think that's. I think Sonny's serious. He wants to do the 3-headed monster, and I don't think he wants to spend $8 million on a guy. They won with Bobrovsky, right? We paid him $10 million, so I see. I think he sees the value, but I think he thinks he can win this way, and then maybe trade for a goalie later.
Well, that's the other thing too. Is this is a low risk move, and you're not tying up the salary cap with these 3 goaltenders. and if you need to make a move mid-season if this team is good.
And goalies have been expensive mid-season, but if you make the right move at the right time, then it won't be.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I got to get you a cough button, Nick.
Yeah, I don't even know what to do. I was like, if I do something, I'm going to screw it up.
Yeah. Is it time for plugs?
Yeah. Pucks at pitchworks.com. Head to puckspitchworks.com. I'm going to write about the 3-headed monster goalie situation, Jake Allen's comments, Sonny Mehta's comments, give my opinion on that. I wrote about Jason Robertson last night. I wrote about Quinn Hughes again last night. It's a little weird. I wrote about that. But yeah, head to pucksandpitchworks.com. We got stuff. Coming.
Yeah. On Friday, I'll be somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean, deep sea fishing, and I'm going to try to do a podcast on the boat.
That cough still came through? Oh, yep. Sorry.
Yeah, it did.
I turned it all the way down, but okay.
No, that button, that knob is more for like if you're at a local venue and it's playing out of speakers. Yeah, it's the knob in your computer settings. Anyway. All right, well, enough of that geek talk. Well, just plugged and gonna be dropping the podcast in about 20 minutes. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Prime, Audible, and on the iHeart app. Wow, we got a lot of viewers. And go to @PitchforkPuck on X. And also see what I'm doing at Primetime Sam Wu. And go to pucksandpitchforks.com for all your Devils needs. And yeah, well, getting out of here. See Maria, see Meadowlander, Devil's Heaven. Happy belated birthday to Max. Instagram
Happy
Live.
birthday, Max.
Seen a lot of folks there, but thank you. Till next time, let's go Devils.